Definitely beyond frequency kwakhona mandithatha lithuba ndibulise kumntu wonke osenokuthi gqinga leli xesha. And also if you have just joined the conversation, noko ke khange uqhwanyaze uyiphose. Namhlanje ke siyazi uba ngaba ke lusuku olukhulu. It is a day whereby we observe abantu abaninzi ke beseholideyini bevuyela uba ngaba ke kukho olu suku. Kodwa ke ingaba na siyayazi intsingiselo yolu suku? What does Human Rights Day even stand for? You might also be happy that you don't have to go to school, you don't even have to go to work, but namhlanje sakhe sive kwakhona and just reflect as well as take some time to find out uba ngabe ke what it is all about. We know that what took place was not a pleasant thing back in 1960s. Kodwa ke xa siphinda sijonga nangoku kweli xesha, 30 years of freedom as well as democracy. What does it definitely mean? So we're going to be taking a quick look kule mizuzwana sinayo uba ngaba ke what are some of the things that we need to remember on this day, being the 21st of March, a day known to be a Human Rights Day. And I specifically even chose this image that I'm actually showing right now because it actually includes all of the colors zetu of our South African flag. So this is a day whereby we take a quick look and find out South African Humans Day is a time when South Africans should actually reflect on how far that we actually come as a nation, especially regarding our basic human rights. And I'm hoping that when we talk about our basic human rights, I always say, Bangabeke, with every right, there has to be a responsibility that most definitely comes along with it. And majority of the time, I've got the right of freedom of speech, but at the same time, do you know the responsibility that it actually entails? So, as another Human Rights Day comes around, it is very important that we try and understand why this national holiday was actually initiated in the first place, which is definitely important. It may be a great convenience to have a day off of school or even at work, but the true purpose of this day is for us to reflect on how, as well as some of the events that took place, specifically on the 21st of March in 1960. The violation of people's rights, human rights to be exact, was at a time, in fact, in South Africa in 1960, just 8 years before the pass laws was actually passed, requiring that all Black South Africans who were over the age of 16 were to carry a dompas, in fact, a passport. Kodwa ke ngelaa xesha kwakusithiwa uba ngaba ke idompas, siyazi uba ngaba ke ngoku thina sithi zintoni, si-ID. Kuthiwa ke everywhere as well as all times. Now, for me, when they say everywhere and at all times, it really makes me think of, for example, today, ndiphangele andiphethanga kwaspaji. I've got the mentality by we talk about just use my phone automatically because of my virtual card. But I'm thinking my ID is not with me. Imagine back then if that care was to take place. Inene bekuyawuba kubi. Kodwa ke a year after that, back in 1953, the Bantu Education Act was enacted, taking effect from the 1st of January back in 1954, governing as well as greatly restricting the education of Black South Africans. These were just two of many passes as well as laws and acts that were passed during apartheid in South Africa to actually strip people of their agency, their dignity, as well as motivation to push back against the various forms of oppression which were being imposed on non-white South Africans as well as institutional level. Now, also, when you take a quick look at 1960, on this specific day, the 21st of March to be exact, people's frustrations came to a boiling point, and we're looking at about a group of, 5,000 to 10,000 people, which actually banded together and went down to the local police station, a Sharpeville township located in the then Transvaal province in the Gauteng, without their passes, and also offering themselves up for arrest in the mass act of defiance. We had had enough, it's been too much and we've been taking it. This definitely had to come to an end. By 10 a.m., I can imagine in the morning, a large crowd had gathered and the atmosphere was initially peaceful as well as festive. Fewer than 20 police officers were present in the station at the start of the protest, but later, when the crowd grew, this prompted at about 130 police reinforcements, which was supported by 4 Sanin unmanned personnel carriers to be rushed in. The police were armed with firearms, as well as including Sten submachine guns, as well as rifles. And there was actually no evidence that anyone in the gathering was armed with anything other than stones. And even if you recall and look at some of the evidence, it's always shown in pictures as well as videos, you actually see kwakungekho kwanto yayisithi mhlawumbi kwabo bebephethe imipu or anything, but they were there to fight with just stones. Now, it was the police's attempt to arrest a protester that prompted the crowd to surge forward, and without any concern for the people's lives of protesters, which some of them were children, and that's when even police started to open fire on the crowd. You can imagine, bayabonakala abantwana, kodwa ke still they opened fire. And what is really sad, when you look at some of the figures actually, there were about 69 people that were killed, including abantwana as well as nabantu, about 180 that were injured, and also police shot so many of the protesters in the back as they were fleeing, and majority of them even got paralyzed at that time. Now, this horrific chain of events is what we must remember on Human Rights Day, and that it is crucial for us to reflect on the mistakes that we made, in fact, that were specifically made during the apartheid regime in South Africa, so that we do not make the mistake of most definitely repeating them. I repeat, this horrific chain of events is what we must remember on Human Rights Day, and it is crucial for us to reflect on the mistakes that were made during the apartheid regime in South Africa, so that we do not repeat these mistakes and we do not make them once more again. And also the image, you can even see equal rights for all, and that's something that I think majority of the time abantu baninzi baye balibale ngayo. Sinalanto ke eMzantsi Afrika sithi ke thina, it is the Bill of Rights. And it even specifically tells you this Bill of Rights is a cornerstone of democracy in South Africa. It enshrines the rights of all people in our country, and it affirms the democratic values of South African dignity, equality, as well as freedom. And there's also freedom of equality, stating that everyone is equal before the law, and that everyone has the right to equal protection as well as benefit of the law, as well as there's so many rights. Even when you specifically even think about it, there's also human dignity. Everyone has inherent dignity and has the right to have their dignity respected and most definitely protected. And also the freedom and security to the person. There's also freedom of privacy, knowing that everyone has the right to privacy, which includes the right not to have their personal home searched unless a search warrant, and also their property to be searched as well as their possessions and so forth. And also freedom of expression, I've mentioned. Everyone has the right to freedom of expression, which actually includes a freedom of the press as well as the media, freedom to receive or impart information or ideas, and freedom of artistic creativity as well as academic freedom, and the freedom of scientific research. There's also your political rights that we most definitely know and that we're currently even dealing with, and also labor relations. Zininzi ke zonke ke ezikhoyo ke i-Bill of Rights. And also one specific one that I think abantu abaninzi even actually forget is children, that umntana has the right to a name and a nationality from birth, a family to care of them, parental care, or to appropriate alternative care when removed from their family environment. And also every child has the right to be protected against abuse, to be protected from exploitation, labor practices, and there are so many of these. And I mean, we could even go on, and even looking at these rights that we most definitely have. But God, I guess we definitely had to remember Human Rights Day, and looking back 30 years down the line, 30 years of freedom and 30 years of democracy. Kodwa ke looking at ixesha lethu noko ke sekuzawunyanzeleka uba ngaba sivale, kodwa ke sinethemba uba ngaba ke noko ke sikwazile ukubakhumbuza abaphulaphuli, sibachukumise ukwenzela uba ngaba ke bayazi uba ngaba ke what is the main reason that we actually have this specific holiday today, national holiday, which was actually initiated in the first place. Kodwa ke could be a great convenience to have a day off school or even at work, but the true purpose of this day is for us to reflect as well as to remember the events that took place on the 21st of March back in 1960. And if I recall even some of the comments we were looking at even on Twitter just a bit earlier on, abantu ke bechaza ngemvuza uba ngaba ke olo suku lwanamhlanje baluva njani na. Kwakunye ke bebanye ke sabona uba ngaba ke imanifesto ke ziyaqhubekeka. Abantu abaninzi bakuzo ngoku ndiyazi uba ngaba ke kwalapha kweli cala lethu umonti khona ekhoyo, as well as some of the comments I would say zindothusa ke zabanye abantu ke that they're definitely giving out. But at the end of the day, I always say ke freedom of expression, we all have the right to actually have our own opinions and state uba ngaba ke how we feel about certain things that are definitely happening in South Africa. Other people even saying uba ngaba ke we all know that there is no miracle that will happen in South Africa to rescue our people. So we are putting in the fight against the corrupt ruling parties, and we most definitely want to take what is ours back. Like I said, we all have the right to definitely say how we feel about certain things that are actually happening in Mzansi Africa. Right, let's take a quick look at time. It is definitely time for us to most definitely say that it has been good. It has been lovely, and I'm hoping they will have a great day further, as well as reflecting and remembering why we specifically have this day.
The World Wide Web is our home.